I said one word in her language by accident. She asked me to marry her. The planet was like no place Alex had ever been before. The air was thicker than the atmosphere of Earth, and the colors were strange, almost as if the sky itself had a pale purple tint to it. The stars, though distant, seemed to hang lower in the sky, like they were a part of the planet, and everything felt more alive. The mission had brought Alex here, part of a team tasked with making first contact with the Kahira, an alien species that had been watching humanity from a distance for centuries. Their advanced technology and vast knowledge were something humans had dreamed of interacting with, and now Alex was here on the edge of history. The Kahira had their own language, one that humans had struggled to understand. It was melodic, full of rich sounds, and unlike any language humans had encountered before. The first few weeks had been full of lessons, and despite their best efforts, Alex and the team had only learned a handful of basic words and phrases. The Kahira were patient, willing to teach, but they had a way of speaking that was both beautiful and complicated, filled with emotions that were difficult to grasp. It wasn't just words, it was how the words made you feel. A simple greeting could feel like a deep, emotional exchange, and Alex often found himself overwhelmed by the experience. On this particular day, Alex was alone, walking through one of the many open courtyards in the Kahira city. The buildings around him were unlike anything he had seen before, crafted from smooth, flowing materials that seemed to shift colors depending on the angle of the sunlight. The air was warm, but not in an uncomfortable way, and everything seemed to hum with an energy that made the ground beneath Alex's feet feel alive. It was a place where technology and nature had merged seamlessly. Alex had been here for over a month now, and he had begun to get comfortable with the Kahira culture. They were kind, gentle beings, and although their customs were foreign, Alex had begun to feel a strange connection to them. He had learned a few words of their language, mostly greetings and polite phrases. They had explained that their words carried a deeper meaning, that they didn't just speak to communicate, they spoke to share feelings and experiences. Alex found it difficult to grasp, but he was determined to try. As he walked, his mind drifted to the lesson he had just attended. The instructor, Cora, had been teaching them about the emotional weight behind a specific word in their language. It was a word that humans didn't have an exact translation for. It was a word used for bonding, for a deep connection almost like love but more profound. The word Tarna was not just spoken, it was felt. It was a promise, an unspoken agreement between two people that they would share everything, thoughts, feelings, even their memories. Alex had heard the word before, but it wasn't until today that he fully understood the weight of it. Cora had explained that Tarna was the highest form of connection between Kahira. It was more than just a word. It was an invitation to share your entire being with another. Alex thought it sounded beautiful, but he also thought it sounded almost impossible. His thoughts were interrupted when he saw someone approach him. It was Myra, one of the Kahira diplomats who had been part of the welcoming committee when Alex and his team arrived. Myra was different from the others. She was calm, poised, and always had a serene smile on her face. There was something about her that Alex couldn't quite place. She was the kind of person who made everyone around her feel comfortable, even though she didn't speak much. Her presence was enough. "Alex," she said in a soft, melodic voice, "how are you today?" Alex smiled at her, glad to see a friendly face. "I'm doing well, Myra, just taking a walk to clear my head." She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I understand, this place can be overwhelming at first. But you are doing well, I can see it in your eyes." Alex didn't know why, but something about Myra's words made him feel seen, understood in a way that was rare back home. On Earth, people rarely took the time to notice each other that deeply, and here with the Kahira it was different. It was as if their very presence acknowledged his emotions without needing to say anything more. "Thank you," Alex said, his voice low. "I'm still trying to understand everything, it's a lot." "You will," Myra replied, "but it takes time. Sometimes all you need is one word." Alex raised an eyebrow, curious. "One word?" Myra smiled slightly, a glint of something deeper in her eyes. "Yes. Sometimes one word can change everything, but it must be spoken with sincerity." Alex nodded slowly, unsure of what she meant. He didn't have much time to think about it before Myra stepped a little closer, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "Alex, there is something important I need to tell you. The Kahira are more than just a species. We are a people who understand the power of connection. We don't just share information, we share our hearts, our souls. And when one of us speaks Tarna, it is an invitation for union. It is the highest honor, the deepest promise. Alex blinked, his confusion growing. Union, what do you mean? Before Myra could answer, Alex accidentally muttered something under his breath. He had heard the word Tarna in his lesson that morning, and without thinking he said it, his voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't intentional, it was just a word that had been floating around in his mind. But as soon as it left his lips, Myra's eyes widened. She looked at him as if seeing him for the first time, and her expression shifted from calm to something more intense, more focused. Myra's lips parted as she stared at Alex, the air between them suddenly thick with something unspoken. Alex felt a strange pressure, as if the world had paused for just a moment. Tarna, Myra whispered, her voice trembling slightly. She stepped even closer, her eyes locked onto his. You have spoken it. Alex blinked, unsure of what to say. I didn't mean to. It was an accident. No, Myra interrupted, her voice firm now. You have spoken the word, the invitation has been given. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He had no idea what was happening, but there was something in Myra's gaze that was unyielding. Her eyes were filled with emotion, emotions Alex couldn't begin to understand. What do you mean? Alex asked, his voice now uncertain. Myra took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. When Tarna is spoken, it is a proposal, it is an offer of union. It is not just a word, it is a commitment, and you have spoken it to me. Alex felt his face flush, his mind racing. But I didn't mean it that way, I don't even fully understand what it means. I know, Myra said softly, reaching out to touch his arm. But it has been spoken, and in our culture, that is enough. Alex stood there, frozen, as the weight of her words sank in. He didn't know what to do. He had just accidentally proposed something that he didn't fully understand, and now Myra was looking at him as if he had made a life-changing decision. I didn't mean to offend you, Alex said quickly, trying to backtrack. I didn't understand the significance. Myra smiled gently, her expression softening. You haven't offended me, Alex. In fact, you've honored me in a way that words cannot fully describe. But there is one thing I must ask. Alex looked at her, uncertain. What's that? Will you marry me? Alex stood there, stunned, as Myra's words echoed in his mind. Will you marry me? She had spoken them softly, but the weight of those words pressed down on him like a ton of bricks. He had no idea how to respond. His mind was racing, thoughts colliding in every direction. How had things escalated this quickly? He had said one word, a mistake, and now Myra was asking him to marry her. It was all too much. Myra's eyes held a strange intensity, a mixture of hope and vulnerability. She waited as if the entire galaxy were hanging on the moment. Alex's heart raced, and he struggled to find his voice. I don't understand, he stammered. This is all a mistake. I didn't mean to say it like that. I don't even know what Tarna means fully. It's just a word, right? I didn't mean anything by it. Myra didn't look angry or upset, but there was a deep sadness in her gaze now. It's more than just a word, Alex. It's a promise, an invitation. You can't say Tarna and not understand what it means. It's an offer, an opening to something beyond just words. Alex stepped back, his hands up in a defensive gesture. But I don't know your culture. I don't know what this means for you. I don't even know how to. Myra gently touched his arm, her touch soft but firm. I know. And I understand that you didn't mean it. But now that you have spoken it, the offer is there. And I am asking you not just because of the word, but because I believe we have a bond. A connection that began the moment you stepped onto this planet. Alex shook his head, his mind in turmoil. I don't even know you like that. I didn't come here looking for a marriage or any kind of commitment. I came here to learn, to explore. This wasn't part of the plan. Sometimes the most important things in life aren't planned, Myra interrupted, her voice soft but resolute. Sometimes they come from unexpected places. Tarna is not just a contract. It's a bond, a connection that transcends time. It means more than just words. It means shared existence, and I believe you and I could have that. Alex felt a lump form in his throat. He had never been one to shy away from difficult conversations, but this one was different. He could feel the sincerity in her words, the weight of something he had never known, and yet deep down he felt completely out of his depth. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding anymore. This was something real, something bigger than him. I don't even know how to be in a relationship like that, he admitted. I don't know your people's customs. I don't know how to be what you need me to be. Myra smiled, though it was a sad smile. You don't need to know everything. Tarna is about trust, Alex. It's about the willingness to share a part of yourself, to open up to another being and let them in. It's not about perfection, it's about connection, and I feel that connection with you. Alex took a deep breath. He wanted to say something, anything, to make the situation less overwhelming, but the words just wouldn't come. He was a diplomat, after all. He had been trained for moments like these, yet nothing could have prepared him for this. How could he explain the way he felt? How could he make her understand that he wasn't ready for something so deep, something so irreversible? I don't know if I can give you what you want, Alex said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know if I'm capable of understanding all of this. Myra's gaze softened and she gently squeezed his arm. I don't need you to understand everything right now. All I need is for you to be honest with me. Can you at least try to consider it, to see if there's something between us? Alex was quiet for a long moment. The wind gently rustled the trees around them, carrying with it the faint scent of flowers and the distant sound of soft, melodic voices. The world around them seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for his response. Myra's presence was calm, and for the first time since his arrival, Alex felt like there was a certain peace to this planet, a peace he hadn't been able to find back home. I don't know, Alex whispered. I wish I could say yes, I wish I could understand everything. But I can't promise you something I'm not sure I can give. Myra's eyes dropped to the ground for a brief moment before she looked back at him, her expression one of understanding. I never expected you to say yes right away. This is a big step and I don't want you to feel pressured. I just wanted you to know that the offer is there and I would like you to consider it. Alex nodded, his heart heavy. I'll think about it, but I need time. I don't want to hurt you by rushing into something I'm not ready for. Myra smiled again, this time more warmly. I understand. Take all the time you need. There's no hurry. The two of them stood there for a few moments, the weight of the conversation settling between them. It wasn't comfortable, but it was honest. And for Alex, that was a step in the right direction. The next few days were a blur for Alex. The words Tarna seemed to echo in his mind constantly, no matter where he went or what he did. Every conversation, every moment of peace, was interrupted by the thought of Myra's proposal. She had left him with an offer he hadn't expected, and now he had to figure out what to do with it. Alex spent his time trying to learn more about Kahira culture, immersing himself in their customs and traditions. He spent hours with Cora, trying to understand the true meaning behind Tarna, and he found that it wasn't just a marriage proposal. It was an invitation to something far deeper, something that transcended the physical realm. In Kahira culture, Tarna was about the unity of souls, a joining of hearts and minds. It was about sharing everything, not just in the traditional sense, but in a way that no human relationship could ever truly compare. The more Alex learned, the more overwhelmed he felt. How could he possibly live up to the expectations of a species so different from his own? How could he give someone the kind of connection that the Kahira expected? It was a level of vulnerability and intimacy he had never known, and it terrified him. But then, a thought began to form in the back of his mind. What if he was running from something that could be beautiful? What if he was denying himself a chance to experience something real, something profound, simply because it was different from everything he knew? It was on the fourth day after the conversation with Myra that Alex saw her again. She was standing near the entrance to the grand hall where the delegation had been meeting, her eyes searching the crowd. When she saw him, she smiled, and for a brief moment Alex felt a flutter in his chest. He walked up to her, his heart still racing. Myra, he said softly, his voice uncertain. I've been thinking about what you said. I still don't know what it all means, but I want to understand. I want to try. Her eyes softened with gratitude. You don't have to do this, Alex. I just wanted you to know that the choice is yours. Alex nodded slowly. I know, but maybe it's time I stopped running from the unknown. Myra's smile widened and she took a small step toward him. I'm glad to hear that. As Alex looked into her eyes, he realized that he wasn't afraid anymore. Whatever came next, he was ready to face it. And maybe, just maybe, he was ready to take that first step into the unknown. Alex spent the next few days in a daze, his mind constantly turning over the conversation he had had with Myra. The weight of the decision pressed heavily on him, and yet there was a strange sense of calm when he thought about it. He knew he had to figure out what he truly felt, but that wasn't as easy as just thinking it through. There was something deeper at play here, something that had nothing to do with logic or reason. It was about connection, something Alex had never fully understood before. As the days passed, Alex began to notice little things about the Kahira that he hadn't paid much attention to before. Their way of communicating wasn't just through words. It was through gestures, through the subtle movements of their bodies and the way their eyes would linger on you when they spoke. They didn't just say things, they expressed them. The words were important, yes, but they were only part of the picture. Everything was connected and everything was shared. There was no hiding in their culture. They didn't believe in keeping things to themselves. Alex had spent most of his life keeping his emotions close, never letting anyone in too deeply. It wasn't that he didn't want to connect with people, but there was always a barrier, something that kept him from fully opening up. On Earth, people didn't share everything. They couldn't, it wasn't safe to. But here, with the Kahira, it was different. Myra had shown him that. She had shown him a different way of being, one that was honest and raw, one that made him feel more vulnerable than he had ever felt in his life. He walked through the city on the fourth day, his mind still heavy with questions. The city was peaceful, but there was an energy in the air, a sense of purpose that Alex couldn't ignore. He walked down the winding streets, his feet carrying him without thinking. It wasn't until he found himself standing outside the grand hall that he realized where he had ended up. The hall was where the Kahira held their meetings and discussions, and it was where Alex had spent most of his time learning about their culture. He hadn't planned to come here today, but something drew him in. He stepped inside without thinking, his eyes scanning the room for Myra. She was there, standing by the window, her face illuminated by the soft light streaming through the glass. She looked peaceful, her posture relaxed, but there was something about her that made Alex's heart race. She turned as soon as she saw him, a small smile playing on her lips. "Alex," she said softly, her voice carrying a warmth that he had come to associate with comfort. "I'm glad you're here." He nodded, his throat suddenly dry. I've been thinking." Myra's eyes softened. "I know you've been struggling with all of this. It's a lot to take in, but I'm here to listen. You don't have to make any decisions right away." Alex stepped forward, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. "I know, but I can't help it. I keep thinking about Tarna, about what it means. I keep wondering if I'm ready for something like that. I don't even know if I believe in it, in this kind of connection. But then I think about you, and I can't deny that something is there, something I didn't expect." Myra's smile widened and she stepped closer to him. "You don't have to have all the answers right now, just be honest with yourself. That's all I ask." Alex took a deep breath, his eyes closing for a moment as he tried to steady himself. I think I'm scared of what it means, scared of what it might require of me. I've never been someone who shares everything. I don't even know if I can. I don't know if I can give you the kind of bond you're asking for." Myra's expression softened, and she reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "I understand, but I'm not asking for everything all at once. Tarna is a journey, Alex. It's not about perfection. It's about trust, about taking that first step and allowing yourself to be open. I'm not asking you to change overnight. I'm just asking if you're willing to take that first step with me." Alex looked at her, feeling a strange sensation in his chest. Her words, her touch, it was as if something inside him was being unlocked. He had always kept himself closed off, but now, with Myra, it felt like that was no longer necessary. There was no judgment in her eyes, no pressure, just acceptance. And that made it harder to ignore the growing connection between them. "I don't know if I'm ready for Tarna, but I know I can't ignore what's happening here," Alex said quietly. "I don't want to run from it. Maybe I can take that first step." Myra's face lit up with a smile that made Alex's heart race. "That's all I need to hear. No one is asking for perfection, Alex, just honesty, and I promise you that's enough." For a long moment they stood there, the silence between them comfortable, filled with something unspoken. Alex felt a sense of calm wash over him. He had never been one to make quick decisions, but right now, standing here with Myra, he felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. "Let's take it slow," Alex said, his voice steady. "One step at a time." Myra nodded, her eyes sparkling with understanding. One step at a time. The following days were a whirlwind of new experiences for Alex. He spent more time with Myra, and they continued to talk about the meaning of Tarna and the bond that came with it. The more he learned, the more he realized that this was not just about a word or a proposal. It was about trust, about vulnerability, and about sharing something real with another person. It was about being willing to open up, even when it scared you. And that was something Alex had never really done before. Myra was patient with him, never pushing him for more than he was ready to give. She simply stayed by his side, offering him the space to process everything at his own pace. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Back on Earth, everything had been about rushing, about deadlines and expectations. But here, with Myra, time seemed to slow down. There was no pressure to move faster, no urgency to make decisions. It was just about being present, in the moment, and allowing things to unfold naturally. One afternoon, after a long conversation about the Kahira's history and traditions, Alex found himself standing on the balcony with Myra, watching the twin suns set over the city. The sky was painted in hues of gold and purple, and the light reflected off the smooth surfaces of the buildings, making everything look like it was glowing. "This place is beautiful," Alex said quietly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Myra stood beside him, her hand brushing lightly against his. "It is," she agreed. "But it's not just the scenery that makes it special. It's the connections we make with each other. That's what truly makes this place feel alive." Alex glanced at her, his heart beating a little faster. "I think I'm starting to understand what you mean." Myra smiled, her eyes filled with something that Alex couldn't quite name. "I'm glad. Tarna isn't just a word, Alex. It's a path, a journey we walk together. And it's a journey I would be honored to share with you." For the first time since arriving on this alien planet, Alex felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in his life, he was willing to step into the unknown. And with Myra by his side, he knew he wouldn't be walking that path alone. The days passed slowly but steadily, and Alex found himself becoming more immersed in Kahira culture. Each moment spent with Myra, each conversation they shared, felt like another step toward understanding what Tarna truly meant. But despite the growing connection, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. There was still so much he didn't understand. And though Myra was patient and kind, Alex knew that the deeper connection she was offering would require more than just time. It would require him to face parts of himself he had long kept hidden. As the sun set on another day, casting long shadows across the city's smooth, curved buildings, Alex stood on the balcony of his quarters, gazing out at the horizon. The landscape was beautiful, but his mind was elsewhere. Myra had given him space to think, but the pressure was starting to build. There were moments when he felt that everything was aligned, that the bond between him and Myra was something real, something that could change everything. But then there were moments when doubt crept in, moments when Alex questioned whether he was ready to truly embrace this new way of life, this new kind of love and connection. The Kahira didn't love like humans did. They didn't need words to express it, and their relationships weren't built on the same kind of foundation Alex had always known. For the Kahira, Tarna was a bond that existed beyond the physical, an emotional and spiritual connection that, once formed, could never be broken. It was about trust, about vulnerability, and about sharing everything, even the darkest parts of oneself. But for Alex, that was terrifying. He had never been the type to share everything. He kept his emotions guarded, never letting anyone see the true depths of what he felt. It was easier that way. It kept him safe. He turned as he heard a soft sound behind him. Myra stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the soft light from inside the room. She was quiet for a moment, watching him as if waiting for him to speak. When he didn't, she stepped forward slowly, her footsteps light. "Alex," she said softly, her voice calm but full of something deeper. "I know you've been thinking a lot about us, about Tarna, but I need you to know you don't have to have all the answers right now." Alex turned to face her, his expression a mix of relief and frustration. "I don't know if I can do this, Myra. I don't know if I can give you what you're asking for." Myra's eyes softened, and she walked closer to him, stopping just a few feet away. "I'm not asking for anything, Alex, not yet. I'm asking you to be open, to take the first step, that's all." Alex let out a deep breath, running a hand through his hair. "I've never been good at opening up. I've always kept things to myself. I've always been alone in that way. And now here you are, offering me something I don't fully understand. You're asking me to trust you with something so important, and I'm scared I don't know if I can do it." Myra reached out, gently touching his arm. The warmth of her hand against his skin sent a shiver through him. "It's okay to be scared," she said. "But Tarna isn't about perfection, Alex. It's about sharing your truth, about being vulnerable, about trusting someone enough to let them in. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't even have to do it perfectly. Just take one step at a time." Alex closed his eyes for a moment, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He had spent so much of his life holding back, hiding his true self from everyone around him. Even when he had been part of the diplomatic mission, he had kept his distance. He had never let anyone truly get close. But Myra was different. The way she looked at him, the way she spoke to him, it was as if she saw him for who he really was, and that terrified him. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," Alex admitted, his voice low. "I don't know if I can trust you with that part of me. The part that's been hidden for so long." Myra's gaze was steady, her expression soft but unwavering. "I'm not asking for everything at once, Alex. I'm asking for a chance to build something real, something you and I can share. But you have to be willing to take that first step." Alex looked at her, his heart racing. He had never been this vulnerable with anyone before, not even his closest friends. And yet there was something about Myra, about the way she made him feel, that made him want to try. Maybe it was time to let go of the walls he had built around himself. Maybe it was time to trust, to truly trust for the first time in his life. He took a deep breath, his voice barely a whisper. "Okay, I'll try. I'll take that first step. But I can't promise anything more than that." Myra's smile was small but genuine. "That's all I need to hear." For a moment they stood there, the space between them filled with something unspoken, something raw. Alex felt as if the weight of the world had shifted, if only a little. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The next few days were filled with quiet moments and meaningful conversations. Alex spent more time with Myra, learning about her past, about the history of the Kahira, and about the way they saw the world. Every word she spoke seemed to hold a deeper meaning. Every glance shared between them felt like a step forward. But despite their growing bond, Alex couldn't ignore the nagging feeling at the back of his mind. There was still so much he didn't understand. And though Myra was patient, she could only offer so much. The rest, he realized, was up to him. He had to be willing to open up, to let go of the fear that had held him back for so long. One evening, as they sat outside, watching the twin moons rise in the sky, Alex finally spoke. "Myra, I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "I don't know how to share everything with you, how to give you all of me. I've never done it before, and I'm scared that I'm going to fail, that I'll let you down." Myra turned to him, her expression soft but determined. "You don't have to do it perfectly, Alex. You don't have to give me everything right away. All I'm asking for is your trust. Just take one step at a time. I'll be here beside you for as long as you need." Alex met her gaze, his heart heavy with emotion. She was asking for so little, and yet it felt like so much. But in that moment, something clicked inside him. Maybe he didn't need to have all the answers. Maybe he didn't need to be perfect. Maybe all he had to do was take the first step and trust that Myra would be there with him every step of the way. "I'm willing to try," Alex said, his voice steady now. "I don't know where this will go, but I'm willing to try." Myra smiled, her eyes soft with understanding. "That's all I need." And for the first time in a long time, Alex felt like he was no longer alone. He didn't have all the answers, and he didn't know what the future held, but he was ready to face it with Myra by his side. Together, they would take that first step and see where it would lead. The next few weeks were unlike anything Alex had ever experienced. As he spent more time with Myra, he began to feel a shift inside himself. It wasn't dramatic at first, but subtle, like a slow unfolding. He found that he was beginning to understand what Tarna really meant, not in the way the Kahira had explained it, but in his own terms. It wasn't just a word. It was a feeling, a willingness to open up and share. And while he still didn't know everything about the bond that Myra was offering, he had come to realize that it wasn't about perfection or knowing every detail. It was about trust. It was about taking that first step, no matter how uncertain the path seemed. One afternoon, after a particularly long meeting with the other members of the diplomatic team, Alex found himself alone in his quarters, staring out at the city. The sky had turned a soft shade of pink, and the city lights below twinkled like stars. He thought about everything that had happened since he arrived on the planet, about the unexpected connection he had formed with Myra and the deeper connection with the Kahira people. He thought about Tarna, how it had started as something foreign, something he couldn't understand, but now felt more familiar. Not something he had to give all at once, but something he could grow into one step at a time. The knock on the door interrupted his thoughts, and Alex turned to see Myra standing there, her face warm with a soft smile. She didn't wait for an invitation before stepping inside, as she always did. There was a comfort in her presence, a peacefulness that Alex had come to look forward to. "Alex," Myra greeted, her voice gentle as always. "How are you feeling today?" Alex leaned back in his chair, his hands folded in his lap. "I've been thinking a lot about us. About what it means to truly connect with someone." Myra's smile widened and she moved closer to him. "I'm glad to hear that. It's not an easy journey, but it's a worthwhile one. The fact that you're thinking about it means that you're already on the right path." "I still don't fully understand it," Alex admitted, his voice uncertain. "I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to fully embrace it the way you do. I've spent my whole life keeping parts of myself hidden. It's not easy to just let go." Myra sat beside him, her gaze steady and understanding. "I never expected you to have all the answers, Alex. Tarna isn't about having everything figured out. It's about being willing to trust, to be open. It's okay to take it slow. I'm not asking you to change overnight." Alex felt a rush of emotion he wasn't expecting. He had been afraid of letting someone see him completely, afraid that he wouldn't be enough. But here, with Myra, things felt different. She wasn't asking for perfection, and that realization hit him harder than anything else. Maybe he didn't need to have it all figured out. Maybe it was okay to just be himself. "I think I'm ready to take that step," Alex said, his voice steady now. "Not all at once. But I'm ready to try." Myra's eyes softened and she reached out to touch his arm. "That's all I ask, one step at a time." For the first time since arriving on this planet, Alex felt the weight on his shoulders begin to lift. He didn't know where this journey would lead, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid to take the next step. He didn't need all the answers, just the willingness to be open, to trust Myra and the bond they were building together. The days that followed were full of quiet moments and deep conversations. Alex continued to learn more about Myra and her people. She told him about the history of the Kahira, about how their society had evolved over thousands of years, and about the importance of connection in their culture. It was a way of life that was so different from anything Alex had ever known, but the more he learned, the more he realized how much he admired it. The Kahira valued trust and openness above all else, and they didn't see Tarna as a commitment to be rushed into, but a bond to be nurtured over time. One evening, Myra took Alex to a quiet spot outside the city, where the landscape stretched out before them, bathed in the soft light of the setting suns. The air was cool, the sky a rich shade of purple, and the silence was almost soothing. Alex took a deep breath, his heart racing just a little as he looked around. It was one of those rare moments when he felt like everything was aligning, as if he was exactly where he was meant to be. "Is this the place?" Alex asked quietly, his voice breaking the peaceful silence. Myra nodded, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the moons above. "Yes, this is where I come when I need to think, when I need to connect with myself, and now I want to share it with you." Alex felt a surge of emotion. It was simple, but it meant so much. Myra was sharing something personal, something sacred to her, and he realized in that moment how much he had come to trust her. He had been afraid to share his vulnerabilities, but now, with Myra beside him, it felt different. He was ready to open up. He didn't have all the answers, but he didn't need them. "I'm not perfect," Alex said, his voice a little strained but sincere. "But I'm willing to try. To be open, to trust you." Myra smiled, a gentle, reassuring smile that made Alex feel like everything would be okay. "That's all I need from you, Alex. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest with me and with yourself." They sat together, watching the suns dip below the horizon, the world around them bathed in the soft, fading light. It was a moment of peace, but also a moment of change. Alex had taken that first step, and as he sat there with Myra, he felt the weight of the world begin to lift off his shoulders. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he was willing to face it without fear. The next few weeks were filled with small steps, each one building on the last. Alex found himself growing closer to Myra, and not just because of the bond they shared, but because he had started to let go of his fears. He had begun to open up in ways he hadn't thought possible. He still wasn't fully comfortable with everything. Tarna was a big commitment, and Alex wasn't someone who took those kinds of decisions lightly, but he was willing to try. He had never truly trusted anyone the way he was learning to trust Myra, and that in itself was a huge step forward. One day, as they were walking through the city, Alex turned to Myra, his expression serious but warm. "I've been thinking," he said. "I know I'm not perfect and I still don't have all the answers, but I want to try. I want to try with you." Myra's face lit up with a soft smile. "That's all I need, Alex, just your honesty, your willingness to try." And in that moment, Alex knew that he was no longer running from the unknown. He was ready to step into it, to face whatever came next with Myra by his side. Together, they would take that first step, one step at a time, and see where it would lead them. The future was uncertain, but Alex no longer feared it. He was ready to face it with trust and an open heart.